Hey coaches, coming to you again this morning, week number 8. Last week you had a chance to share the gospel message with your kids. I hope that was a time when you were really able to enter into that moment and share what Christ means to you and what He can mean to them. Please don't forget, there's follow-up material and Bibles available to you for kids who need to dig a little deeper or who this might be their first faith step ever. This week you get to help them take another step in their spiritual journey. The question this week is, how do I begin a relationship with God? What does a friendship with God look like? And when I was younger, I used to have a buddy. And every Saturday morning we would go to the golf course and we'd meet at 5:30 a.m. and we'd tee off and we'd play 18 holes of golf. And we became better friends over the years. But sometimes if you were to watch that Saturday morning experience, you wouldn't know that we were best of friends because we didn't always talk all the time, and sometimes we would just walk next to each other and just enjoy what was going on around us, but we didn't always have to be conversing. And sometimes I think that a relationship with God is somewhat the same, because you see, with my friend, I knew him. I had come to know him, I'd learned about him, we'd talked, we'd gone to coffee, we spent time together on the golf course. I had talked and listened to him, and then sometimes we just were in each other's company. And the same thing happens when we have a relationship with Jesus. The things that help us build a relationship with Jesus are that we get to know Him. The Apostle Paul talked about how he knew who God was, but had never had a relationship. Those two things need to be together in the same friendship, because if kids just know a lot about God but don't have a friendship or have never started that relationship through salvation with God, then they really don't have the fullness of the relationship that they understand. And so the first thing to having a relationship with God is to get to know Him. And I would encourage you to challenge your kids. Some of them can read, some of them can't, and so maybe you need to pass this on to their parents also, is to look at the book of Mark or look at the book of Luke and have them start reading the story of Jesus on earth. Because as they get to know about Jesus and as they get to know about His Father, who is God the Father, they'll start to know Jesus a whole lot better, and that helps them in developing a relationship with Him. The second thing that I did with my friend who was my golf buddy is that we would talk and then we would listen. We couldn't both talk at the same time, and if we both listened, then nothing would be known. And so one of us would talk and we would share, and the other would listen and kind of try to understand and comprehend what was going on. And the same thing is true with God. We have the opportunity to go to God in prayer. You know, Paul said that he got to approach Jesus, he got to approach God through prayer with clarity as he would a close friend. And we have that opportunity also. We can talk to God like He's sitting right next to us. And kids most times will understand that prayer is talking and not listening. But helping kids understand that we talk to God, we share our requests, we ask Him for what we need, we thank Him for what He has given, we praise Him for who He is. That's just one piece. Then we need to watch as He answers our prayer requests. When I was a kid, and I was in 3rd grade, one of my teachers asked us to join her in praying that her dad would come to know Jesus. And my whole 3rd grade year, nothing happened. Her dad didn't accept Jesus. Her dad did not come to know Jesus or even appreciate who Jesus was. And during my 4th grade year, I tried to keep going in 5th grade year, and we moved away. And when I was in 7th grade, that same teacher called and said, you know what, Brody, today, which was 4 years later, and she'd been praying for 18 years, today my dad came to know Christ. And what we have to understand is that when we talk to God, that's one piece. We also have to listen and watch for His response and to hear what He's saying to us, that little voice that's inside of us telling us which way to go, and then look for the answers that He gives to show that He cares and He really is listening. The third thing that we need to remember is that it's just good to hang out with God. I hung out with my buddy that was on the golf course. His name was Eric. And sometimes we don't really understand how important it is to realize that God is always here. In the book of Joshua, He promises Joshua that He'll never leave him or forsake him. And that same promise goes for us. So we have to realize that whether we like it or not, or whether we're willing to acknowledge it or not, that God is all around us. He is with us all the time if we have a relationship with Him. And so we need to kind of hang out with Him, act like He's around. There's a story in the New Testament, Mary and Martha. And Martha was really working hard to get a dinner ready, and she was preparing the house for this meal that Jesus was to be a part of, and she thought it was really important, and it was. And Mary stayed and sat at Jesus' feet and just listened to him talk and just kind of hung out with him. And Martha got really upset. And she came to Jesus and she said, "Hey, why isn't Mary helping?" And Jesus said to her, "Mary has chosen the more important thing. She's chosen just to hang out with me." And I think if we encourage kids to not only get to know God, but to talk to and listen to him, and then learn what it means to maybe just understand that when we are walking around every day, that we are hanging out with God, and our behavior and our thoughts should reflect that. I think that's some of the first steps to how to form a relationship with God. Get to know him, pray and listen for his response and for his voice, and then learn what it means to live with the understanding that he's just all around us, to hang out with him. I hope that your time together with your kids this week is great. The verse that's there, Matthew chapter 7, verse 7, about the ask and the seek and the find, that's good material. Make sure you look at that. And I hope that your kids are able to understand that it's not just about praying a prayer and that all of a sudden heaven is theirs. It's about a relationship that lasts for the rest of their life. Have a great week. Thanks for your input in these kids' life.